From the Twin Cities, this is the Upper Midwest first look at tonight's news. This is Primetime News.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Rod Grant.
And I'm Heather Harden. Tonight on Primetime News, numerous blackouts hit the Twin Cities today, one of them causing Channel 9 to go off the air temporarily.
Also tonight, President Reagan is proposing a ban on the use of federal funds for abortion counseling. Donald Reagan takes the stand in his first day of testimony in the Iran-Contra hearings.
Plus, tonight, a special look back at the devastating storm that hit the Twin Cities on July 23rd, 1987.
The top of our news tonight, for the second day in a row, Twin Cities power consumers logged record demands for electricity. The result, power outages throughout the city.
Today, thousands of people, including KMSP viewers, were literally in the dark when we were knocked off the air by the power outage.
And as Maureen Reeder reports tonight, NSP crews are chasing after circuits popping all over town.
This is the KMSP newsroom at 5:10 this evening. Not only is it dark here, we are off the air. We are victims of a blackout and a backup power system that failed.
Newsroom. We're off the air.
KMSP was out of power for nearly an hour, as were many other parts of Edina where we are located. And all around town, NSP crews are hopping from crisis to crisis.
It's due to the heat and overloads of the transformers and stuff, and just the equipment. We're doing the best job we can with the conditions the way they are, and we're going to get you back on as soon as we can.
In South Minneapolis, it's the same story. Too many people coming home from work and turning their air conditioners on at the same time.
We were just out just about an hour, and when we come home, I taken my mother to the doctor, and when we got back, the lights everything was off.
NSP says it is scrambling to keep ahead of these problems, but it's never faced demand like this before. More than 5,000 homes at some point were without power today. Tomorrow promises to bring the same hot, humid weather and the same dinner-time power shortage. Maureen Reeder, Channel 9 News.
And joining us now from his home in New Hope is NSP spokesman Sam McAlis. And Sam, thanks for being with us. And briefly, Sam, what's causing the outages? Is it the demand, or is it equipment problems, or what?
Well, I think it's a combination of all of those things. We have had heavy demand today. We did set a new peak demand today, 6,341 megawatts. That surpasses the mark we set just yesterday. And so the demand has been very heavy. People coming home during the supper hour and putting on their air conditioning, and that has contributed to the load. Today the peak demand was set right around the supper hour between 5 and 6 p.m.
Sam, can power outages like this be avoided or prevented?
Well, I think it's pretty typical that when you have extremely hot weather like we've been having now, that you can expect scattered outages, and that's certainly been the case. We've had our share of those over the last couple of days, and that's going to continue throughout this heat spell.
So, Sam, if the hot weather continues, we can expect more of these little breakdowns.
I think we can. I think people are going to have to be patient and bear with us. We'll get them back on as soon as we can, and we just hope that the problems don't get more serious than they have been so far.
Okay, thank you very much. Sam McAlis, an NSP spokesman. Thank you again, Sam.
You're welcome.
A controversial decision from the White House today on abortion. President Reagan is proposing new regulations to stop the use of federal funds for abortion counseling and is ordering the Surgeon General to study abortion's effects on women. While pro-choice groups denounced today's announcement, the president said it's about time.
Current guidelines require grant recipients to provide abortion counseling and referral. This policy has effectively barred family planning organizations that will not engage in abortion activity from participating in the Title X program. I'm directing the Secretary of Health and Human Services to publish regulations in the Federal Register removing this bias against groups that refuse to engage in abortion activities.
And we believe that this is an outrageous assault on the women of this country, and specifically the poor women and the young women of this country for whom this program is designed to serve. They have been unable to persuade the American people to their point of view. They have been unable to bludgeon us and to terrorize us into their point of view. And now, once again, they're not content to go away and say that we will conduct our private lives as we see fit and permit other people to do so, but to once again attack these women through government policies.
White House officials called the proposed changes administrative, not legislative, and therefore not in need of congressional approval. A bizarre plane crash in Mexico City tonight. Reports say a 4-engine commercial cargo plane has crashed onto several cars on a busy highway. No reports of casualties yet. Residents of the neighborhood say the craft flew about 100 feet over houses. They say they heard an explosion and then saw heavy smoke rising into the air from a distance. And in the Persian Gulf, a U.S. Navy helicopter crashed today into the Persian Gulf, killing one man. 3 others are missing. Officials say 5 other men aboard the chopper were rescued. The chopper, similar to this one, was attempting to land on the command ship LaSalle. There wasn't anything suspicious, is how one American official is describing the crash. In Washington, a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee had this reaction.
I think, quite candidly, what we're going to encounter from time to time now is a good deal more of this kind of thing. And then, of course, the question will be how tolerant will the American public be of the operation there?
The Navy is now investigating. The names of the victims are being withheld until their relatives are notified.
The man who lost his job as President Reagan's chief of staff because of the Iran-Contra affair was before those hearings today to testify. Donald Regan told investigators he did not favor selling arms to Iran after they failed at first to win the release of hostages.
I told him I thought we ought to break it off, that, we'd been snookered again. And how many times, do we put up with this rug merchant type of stuff?
And the former chief of staff also testified today that he was never told of the diversion of arms profits to the Contras, and he is sure that President Reagan was never told as well.
This guy I know was an actor, and he was nominated at one time for an Academy Award, but I'd give him an Academy Award if he knew anything about this and watched his reaction to express complete surprise at this news on Monday afternoon, the 24th. He couldn't have known it.
Regan is expected to complete his testimony tomorrow, and the final witness to be called will be Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger.
Kenneth Edelman, the head of the U.S. Arms Control and Disarmament Agency, submitted his resignation to President Reagan today. This comes just days after U.S. negotiators agreed to a Soviet proposal for a worldwide ban on intermediate-range nuclear missiles.
I wanted to leave at a time when it was clear that things were coming up roses on the first good arms control agreement that we've had in 10, 15 years. I wanted to leave at a time when it was clear that I was doing this without any policy implications or for any policy disagreements.
Edelman says he's going to write, join a think tank, and resume teaching. His resignation takes effect in October.
Meanwhile, Secretary of State George Shultz and his Soviet counterpart will be meeting in Washington on September 15th. They'll be talking about an agreement to eliminate U.S. and Soviet medium-range missiles and preparing a visit by Soviet leader Gorbachev before the year is out. Marine Sergeant Clayton Lonetree was on the stand today in his court-martial trial and said that he had received $3,500 from the Soviets. Under cross-examination from the defense, Lonetree said some of the information he allegedly passed was classified, but the Soviets already knew it, and he denied turning over additional classified information. Lonetree, as you know, faces up to life in prison if convicted on the charges of espionage. Well, still to come on Primetime News tonight, skin cancer strikes President Reagan for a third time.
And a car bomb rips through central Johannesburg in South Africa. We'll have details when we return.
The St. Paul Police and Fire Departments may be spared under the city's new budget. That's what Mayor George Latimer hinted today, but that budget is embroiled in some controversy tonight. Latimer is being accused of trying to sell the budget behind closed doors. Fritzy Borgward has the story.
There would be nothing wrong with asking him to call a special meeting. That would be perfectly all right if I wanted to. I didn't choose to.
Instead, Mayor Latimer is calling council members in tonight 2 by 2 to brief them on his budget to be released tomorrow. That plan has been criticized in a letter sent to the mayor's office by State Auditor Arnie Carlson, who says the mayor is having those meetings in private to try to get around the open meetings law. If 3 council members were present, it would be a violation.
I don't drop a budget proposal on the city of St. Paul and its people without consulting with my city council.
Council members disagree over the practice.
Why do we have to meet behind closed doors? I think we've somewhat circumvented some rules around here by what we're doing tonight. So I do not plan on attending.
Sometimes when, the debate goes immediately to the public and to the press, then there's no time for a calmer evaluation and feedback.
Latimer refused to release details of his budget tonight. The city faces a deficit, and there was at one time fear that up to 70 police positions would have to be cut. Latimer did hint his budget will not do that, but that city travel and equipment purchases may have to be slashed. The city faces a $3.4 to $7.7 million deficit for a number of reasons. A comparable worth pay increase recently won by police officers, and a loss in the city's NSP franchise fee because of a mild winter are among them. The details of Latimer's budget will be officially released tomorrow morning. Then it faces the council and 2 months of very public hearings. Fritzi Borgwart, Channel 9 News, St. Paul.
Indian Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi says he's all right following an attack today by a Sri Lankan sailor. The sailor hit Gandhi with a rifle butt as he reviewed an honor guard in the presidential palace in Colombo. Gandhi says he suffered only a lump on his shoulder. The sailor apparently was enraged by the signing of an Indian-sponsored peace accord. And the government of South Africa is blaming the outlawed African National Congress for a powerful car bomb. The bomb went off near military headquarters in Johannesburg this morning. At least 69 people were hurt. South Africa's president is calling the bombing a dastardly and callous act by communist-controlled terrorists.
President Reagan will be making yet another trip to Bethesda Naval Hospital tomorrow to have a cancerous tissue removed from his nose. The president continues to have a sense of humor, however, despite the problem.
This is just a small billboard that says, it's a reminder that says, stay out of the sun.
It's the president's third brush with skin cancer, but doctors say it's rarely dangerous and has no relation to his earlier bout with colon cancer. Well, each year in the United States, over 400,000 new cases of skin cancer are reported. The most common type is called basal cell carcinoma, the kind of cancer that the president has. The American Cancer Society says that basal cell is an extremely benign cancer that doesn't spread to underlying tissues. In fact, a cure is virtually assured with early detection and treatment. By far the major risk factor is overexposure to the sun, particularly for those with fair complexions. Doctors recommend that you avoid the midday sun when ultraviolet rays are at the strongest. Skin cancer warning signs include any change in the appearance of the skin, especially a change in the size or color of a mole. The survival rate for patients with basal cell carcinoma is 95% after 5 years.
A 3-year, $400 million plan to expand AIDS testing was introduced today in Congress. The legislation calls for the testing to be voluntary and confidential, and counseling would be provided for those who test positive. While support is bipartisan, the bill is being introduced by Democrats Edward Kennedy in the Senate and Henry Waxman in the House.
We cannot afford for anyone to be afraid to seek medical advice on AIDS, but if Americans believe that they will be treated as citizens with rights, then they will respond as citizens with responsibilities. If test results are treated as health information and not as licenses for jobs and housing, those at risk can be reached.
Committee hearings on this bill begin September 9th. Rod?
Now with tonight's report from the Missing Children Network, here's Paul Baldwin.
The Vanished Children's Alliance reports the location and recovery of Ramona and Ryan Stewart. The children had been missing from Plano, Texas since July of 1986. They were located in Everett, Washington, living with their non-custodial mother and maternal grandmother. 3.5-year-old Julie Maglilo was last seen June 8th of this year. This little girl vanished while walking home of a backyard neighbor in Pompano Beach, Florida. Julie was wearing a light blue t-shirt and red shorts. She has blue eyes and blonde curly hair, which she wears in a ponytail. Julie has pierced ears, but she was not wearing earrings at the time of her disappearance. Kevin Collins never returned home following basketball practice on February 10th, 1984. He was last seen waiting for a bus at Oak and Masonic Streets in San Francisco, California. Now 13 years old, Kevin has brown hair, gray-green eyes, freckles, and a small scar on his tongue. Missing from Valparaiso, Indiana since January 21st, 1983 is Joseph Gilbert. Joseph is believed to be in the company of his non-custodial father. Now 10 years old, Joseph has blonde hair and blue eyes. If you can help locate Julie, Kevin, Joseph, or any other missing child, call the Missing Children Network hotline. Pictures of these and other missing children can be found at your local country club food markets.
Tonight in business, the government's main economic forecasting gauge has turned in its best performance since March. The Commerce Department says that means its index of leading indicators is up 0.8%, rising for 5 straight months. And new home sales were also up 3.5%, recovering slightly from a huge decline in May. And new census figures show that the Twin Cities area is the fastest growing major metropolitan area in the nation's Frost Belt from New England to the Midwest. But the 7.4% population growth from 1980 to 1986 in Minneapolis-St. Paul is nothing compared with the boom in the Sun Belt, where double-digit growth is the norm. Estimates released recently by the U.S. Census Bureau show the Twin Cities ranked 16th in size and has 2,295,000 people. Now let's take a look at what regional stocks did today in their performance. Tonka, Commercial, Federal, and Control Data were up. Metropolitan Financial, Justin's, and Minnetonka were down. The Dow Jones continues doing it. It had a new record high, closing up nearly 28 points. Okay, if you can get these numbers, you're good. Up 28 points at 2567. Very heavy trading today of 208 million shares. Did you know this? 95% of U.S. businesses today, that's 13 million, are family-owned and operated, but 70% do not survive into the second generation. So apparently, it is not easy to work with a family member. Here to talk about how to keep the family business going is Glenn Ayers, who is a consultant who specializes in that field. Now, we're going to talk tonight about the 7 rules for family members, especially family members of the opposite sex, trying to work together. Glenn, what's rule number 1?
Communicate. And I think communicates 3 things. Talk about the little things, talk about how you talk about, and do it, and talk about how you communicate with each other. In other words, process whether it's easy or difficult to communicate.
That, of course, makes sense for any relationship. What do you say is number 2 after communicate?
I think you got to get at the little hurts. Don't let them become big piles of garbage in the corner. Get at them when they're small.
People tend to hold things inside too long.
Yeah, and certain ethnic groups tend to do so more than others. I'm English, and it's real easy for we English to maintain a stiff upper lip.
I know what you mean, because I am too.
We need to talk.
What's the 3rd thing that we need to do?
I think we need to talk about our differences, particularly in the genders. The women with their nurturing, traditional roles, and the males with their competitive, have a lot of flavor and strengths to bring to businesses, but only if they view those differences as strengths.
You know what, in my notes you jumped ahead to number 7, but that's okay. I had number 3 is define objectives, so let's redo that one.
Okay.
What does that mean, to define objectives?
It's real easy in a family business to get family stuff mixed up in business stuff. They are, after all, the same people.
Okay, and what's number 4?
Think about distributing the work between the sexes. If the rule is all my kids must be treated equally, and one has an MBA, and the other's in the back room stocking the shelves, equality will get you in trouble.
And number 5?
Business relationships are different kinds of relationships, and they need work just like our personal relationships do.
And finally, the last one.
Well, the last one is the gender differences. And I want you to understand that sometimes when those gender differences get powerful, you need an outside perspective to take a look at it.
And so sometimes you use a consultant.
Thank you. Yes, that's what we're in business for.
Thank you very much, Glenn, for
Appreciate
sharing those thoughts. Let's go back to Rod.
Thank you, Heather. Up ahead yet tonight, how long will this hot spell last? Well, Joe Dandry is next with the complete Channel 9 forecast. Stay with us.
The Red Cross is estimating its cost for damage assistance at $300,000. All services being provided free to last week's flood victims. The Red Cross says the money is being spent for shelter, food, clothing, medicines, and helping homeowners replace appliances and furniture. So far, the agency has processed 300 applications, but estimates that more than 1,400 families have been affected by the storm. Red Cross service centers in Richfield, Minneapolis, and St. Paul will remain open through the weekend.
Merchants at Southdale are getting back on their feet again. Last week's storm incapacitated many retailers with up to 6 inches of water and forced Southdale to close down for a day. Today, merchants began clearing out all those flood-damaged articles by having what else? A flood sale with discounts today of up to 75%. And many say business was booming.
Everyone's coming down to check out the damages. Yesterday or 2 days ago, I had half my store out in the hallway, and we did our own little sidewalk sale out there. So, and last night didn't help because we lost power for 3 of our 4 hours last night.
Yes, it has been a rough week. Some merchants are waiting to remodel before reopening for business. No word yet on the total cost of flood damage out at Southdale.
Well, if they went shopping, at least they got out of this stifling heat and humidity and got away from these eagle-sized mosquitoes now.
I stepped out the back door and automatically started dog paddling. It was like I was underwater or something.
Yeah.
It's horrible outside. Looks like it's going to stay that way, too, the next couple of days. Sorry to say, more of the same is on the way. 92 degrees is where we topped out here in the Twin Cities. It felt hotter than that because the dew point was so high. Morning low 73. Averages are 83 and 60. The airport last night picked up almost an inch of additional rainfall with those thunderstorms that were grumbling around the area. The pollen count today also very high, most of it nettle and pigweed, so the ragweed seems to have subsided at least for a time. Partly cloudy now, 85 degrees. The dew point a very muggy, sultry 76, making our relative humidity 75%. We have a southeast breeze at 8. Pressure steady, 29.90. All appears quiet on the Twin Cities radar this evening, at least across the state of Minnesota. And off to the south and east of us between Platteville and Prairie du Chien in southwestern Wisconsin, some very heavy thunderstorms dumping heavy amounts of rain. They are sinking slowly off to the southeast. As far as we can see, nothing moving in yet, but keep in mind it's after about 11 or 12 o'clock over the past couple of nights was when we've been seeing these thunderstorms pop up, so that'll be a possibility later on. On our satellite picture, we can see there is a disturbance heading at us from the northwest. A lot of clouds. Matter of fact, this is probably the strongest disturbance we've seen yet this week. It is going to be sinking slowly southeast and could reactivate this front later tonight, which is very close to us here in the Twin Cities and through western Wisconsin. So once again, a very moist flow ahead of this system. Still a very good chance for some heavy rainfall to develop later on, even though the radar is quiet right now and all appears quiet. 64 degrees at Duluth is the cool spot. They have a breeze off the lake. Indeed, the air-conditioned city this evening. 70s, 80s, 90s elsewhere, 94 at Pierre and Rapid City as of 9 o'clock. And look at the area of hundreds expanding across the Dakotas and southward. It was 108 degrees this afternoon at Pierre, South Dakota, and 105 at Aberdeen, 100 also out at Rapid City. A lot of heat all around the center part of the country, and it appears to be going nowhere, and that means we're going to stay warm for the next several days. Radars around the country showing some scattered, very heavy activity across the east, but it is widely scattered, and also throughout the Rockies. Something is trying to get organized out there. As a matter of fact, tomorrow's weather map, we do expect a rather significant cold front to finally be moving into the northern Rockies. Still a long ways away from us. As a matter of fact, it probably wouldn't make it here until Tuesday, the way it looks right now, but at least it's some hope for breaking this heat wave. Hot, humid weather, though, will continue across just about all of the central and southern portions of the country. This cool front will bring some relief to the northeast. New York only expecting 82 degrees with low humidity there. They will feel that cool air possibly in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, northeastern Wisconsin, but elsewhere hot and stormy, especially along these frontal boundaries. 103 tomorrow at Phoenix, 69 behind that front at Seattle, about 98 at Oklahoma City, and 91 down at Tampa. Here's our forecast for the Twin Cities. For tonight, we're calling for a chance for some scattered thunderstorms to develop later on. Warm and muggy, 70 to 75 overnight with a southeast breeze at 5 to 12. Pretty good shot at seeing some storms later on. Tomorrow, partly cloudy, scattered storms gradually diminishing, 88 to 93, southeast at 8 to 15, high humidity. Tomorrow night, warm and humid, an isolated thunderstorm possible, chance goes down, lows in the mid-70s, and Saturday, hazy, hot, and humid, more of the same, highs in the 90s. But I want to say I'm looking forward to the second half of this newscast because I missed out on a lot of the excitement that was going on last Thursday night. I was too busy
a week ago tonight that it all happened.
Right, and I've got my VCR all set. I'm ready to.
Okay. This is a good opportunity to suggest to you might want to get your VCRs ready to tape this special presentation of the sights and sounds of the tragedies of last Thursday night.
That's coming up just in a few minutes here on Primetime News. Also tonight, the Emmy nominations for the Best in Television were announced today. The 39th Annual Primetime Awards will be handed out September 20th in Los Angeles. NBC, which has been leading the ratings, also picked up the most nominations. The network's L.A. Law swept the field with 20, including nominations for Best Drama, Best Lead Actors, Best Guest Performer, 2 for directing, and 2 more for writing. Also next, NBC's Golden Girls and ABC's Moonlighting tied at 14 nominations each. The top vote getter for CBS was its perennial winner, Cagney and Lacey, earning 7 nominations this year. Fox Broadcasting, which will host the awards this year here on Channel 9, picked up 5, including Emmy nominations for its Tracy Ullman Show and also for Married with Children. Well, still to come on Primetime News in sports, the Twins take a look at a new pitching candidate.
And another Viking with a court date. We'll be right back.
Well, the Twins had the day off, but the front office was working hard.
Yes, tomorrow's the trading deadline, and everybody's jockeying for position, trying to add a couple of players. Twins Executive Vice President Andy MacPhail has spent the day huddled with his staff trying to decide how to attack the team's problems. Mike Smithson was demoted to Portland yesterday. We're still awaiting word on who will replace him on the roster. Maybe a minor leaguer with modest credentials, and they're probably working on a trade or two. It may be a long shot, but if you recognize this fellow, you know he has the kind of stuff that could help the Twins in the short run. Vida Blue, the American League's most valuable player in 1971, wants to make a comeback. Blue has had drug problems in the past. In fact, he went to spring training with Oakland this year and then retired because of drugs. But now he is living in the Twin Cities, where he is working on his dependency problems with Carl Eller, the former Viking, who works full-time on these matters. Vida and Carl made an appearance in Oakdale last night, where Blue said he still wants to pitch.
Good about my ability to pitch in the big leagues. I was fortunate to play in both leagues, the American League and National League, and I feel as though I could help Oakland as well as helping the St. Louis Cardinals. I wouldn't care which team it would be, but it would be nice to be one of the teams that's in the pennant race right now, and those two teams I named are still in the race, as well as the Twins. So, you know, again, I'm a left-handed pitcher, age 38, and this is my way of applying for the job.
Well, Blue is now engaged to a woman from Minneapolis, so his desire to pitch here is real, but there are a couple of snags. One, he hasn't pitched all year. Could he get ready in time to help? Two, he's not very far removed from his drug problems, and the Twins might hesitate after their Steve Howe experience of a couple of years ago. Also, Oakland owns his rights, so they would have to release him or trade him to the Twins. It's all unlikely, but he's certainly not much less of a candidate than Terry Forster or Tom Gorman. We'll see if anything can materialize. MacPhail has been in meetings all day and has been unable to comment on this circumstance. Okay, in the American League tonight, the Yankees are leading Kansas City. Billy Gardner, look out. Baltimore and Cleveland tied up late. Milwaukee and Chicago battling shutouts in the 6th. National League, Neil Heaton won his 12th game. Houston defeated Atlanta. San Diego leads Cincinnati. Philadelphia shut out Pittsburgh, and the Mets threatening to make it 7 in a row for the Cardinals. A week from today, Tommy Kramer will go before a judge regarding his driving while intoxicated charge. Today it was defensive back Isaac Holt's turn, as Perry Williams reports.
Vikings cornerback Isaac Holt emerged somewhat relieved after pleading guilty to a charge of aggravated DWI and for driving with a revoked license. Other charges were dismissed. He avoided a heavy fine plus a jail term, sentenced instead to a month of community service and a total fine of $825. The 25-year-old Alabama native is already undergoing rehab treatment at the Hazelden Clinic in Center City.
This is the first time I really realized that I had a problem. And I feel like if I take the tools that they're giving me at Hazelden and, you know, do the program as well as I can, I don't think I have much problem anymore.
I think what he's learned more than anything else is he's learned that alcohol can lead to some problems in life, and I think it's important to note that he has voluntarily submitted himself to treatment. He did not do that under a court order.
Holt was stopped along Highway 100 in the crosstown on the 4th of July. Edina police say his car was swerving and a breathalyzer showed he was way above the legal limit. The incident led to several other driving charges and his appearance today before District Judge Kevin Burke. A negotiated settlement was already worked out with John Pretorius representing the city of Edina. Burke stayed much of the sentence, but ordered the fine and 30 days of work at the Mission Valley Detox Center in Plymouth. Holt led the Vikings with 8 interceptions last year and is counted on heavily for the 1987 season. But now he's going about slowly fulfilling his challenge.
First is solving my problem, which is alcohol, and then the aftercare treatment, and then football.
Holt should be joining the Vikings training camp in Mankato late in August and should be ready for the regular season. But until then, he'll be working on the biggest game of all, his life. In Minneapolis, Perry Williams, Channel 9 Sports.
David Wheaton, the local tennis player, went up against Yvonne Lendl today and won the first set, but he lost the match, so he's out of that D.C. tournament.
Thank you, Jim.
Well, yeah.
Coming up right after these messages, a Channel 9 news special on the storm 1 week ago tonight. Get ready to roll the VCRs.
Where the curb is, cars we always look at.
Right, yeah. Here's another car right here.
It was a dark and stormy night, a phrase usually associated with a canine comic strip character or the ultimate example of the beginnings of a bad novel. But that seems to be the best description of what happened to the Twin Cities 1 week ago tonight, July 23rd, 1987.
That Thursday night, severe weather hit our area, leaving homes damaged by tornadoes and floods, streets that became rivers of water, and 2 people dead. Many of us spent that memorable night either seeking shelter in our basements or bailing them out, unable to see the evening news.
But KMSP crews were out in the midst of the storm, capturing the human drama. And tonight, reporter Steve Goodspeed and photographer Bob Davidson bring you this dramatic story, a story told in the pictures and the words of those caught in the devastation. We are proud tonight to present this Channel 9 News Special.
Here's a car, sir. Right here's a car. It's one Toyota underwater.
It's gone, total. There's nothing left.
Look at that house. Oh my God.
Well, it's just one wall that went. We're not sure. We do have some cracks in the other.
She says you got 10 seconds to get all your furniture off the floor because the flood's coming.
If he wants to stop things, it'll be stopped. But this was one thing that he had no power over.
Reports of a touchdown near Long Lake, north of Minnetonka. Near Long Lake, north of Lake Minnetonka.
Somebody in Harper's Lane was all headed for their basement because they had seen a tunnel plowed.
All units, just be careful. We've got several touchdowns in the area. Whoever the base, I don't see it down on the ground here yet. Keep me posted. What can I do for you, Ray? Yeah, take it easy, Jen. He was trying to reach me. Is it raining up there yet? It is. It let up there for a while, now it's starting up again here in Maple Grove. Yeah, it should be starting to pour there. Joe says the systems are moving through, and the likelihood of funnels redeveloping now with all this rain is slim.
So I looked out and the wind was just blowing, so I couldn't even see the trees outside. My ears started like this. And I hit the floor. I told the wife, I said, belly down on the floor, because we were laying flat on the floor because anything going over the top of us would miss us. And we were in the front of the house here, which is, you know, the way the storm was coming from. So everything went out the back.
Well, we were downstairs in the bathroom with a quilt over our heads, and my husband said his ears popped, and we just said, oh dear, we're getting hit by a tornado. It's a total wreck. It's a total wreck. We have some clothes and a few pieces of furniture, but the lower part of the house is just wrecked. We won't be able to salvage anything, I don't think.
What will you do now?
I don't know. I just don't know.
Now, vultures love this kind of stuff. It's really our stuff, too, by the way. The hunks of metal are on my car. If I would have got out of that door 10 seconds earlier, it'd have killed me.
This reports between 5 and 6 inches of rain now across parts of the Twin Cities metropolitan area, and it's still coming down heavily. We want to go back to about 5:35 this afternoon and show you how this all started. As we roll this through, you can see how the storm's intensified. You can see that particular storm that hit the Maple Grove area, and look at this. It's just sitting right over the Twin Cities metropolitan area now. Storms are moving east at about 30 to 35 miles. Well, we got stuck over here in Minnehaha Creek. It overflowed its banks, and we went right into this guy's yard and tipped sideways, and this poor fellow that tried to help me is still stuck.
Just stopped? What happened?
Yeah, I think the tailpipes down under the water just flooded itself.
Well, we'll give you a ride.
Okay, thanks.
About a 9-block area, 1,000 feet wide, a cut swamp there, and 7 homes are destroyed, damaged.
Yeah, these are abandoned vehicles. Yeah.
No, but I'm not abandoning it yet.
Ma'am, do you need some help? Huh? Yeah, are you going to get out? Is there water in your car? Hey, can you help that gal? Can you help her? What? There's a lady in that car. Quiet, David Johnson. Don't hit the car.
When we left home, I didn't think I was really a laborer. I thought it'd be kind of false labor. But by the time we got flooded out in these people's houses, the attractions were getting a lot harder, and I knew it was real labor. And I thought, what are we going to do? Because I didn't think even an ambulance would be able to make it there.
Well, we arrived at Fairview Southdale in a fire truck. A great big fire truck. Joseph's first ride.
Sirens going?
Sirens, lights, weaving in and out of cars that were buried in 4 feet, 5 feet of water. It was pretty exciting. The water kept gushing through the roof, and so we had to evacuate our laboring patients, and they're out on our postpartum unit right now for normal labor now.
We probably have about 75 people, and we're going to bed them down in our lobby and in our lounges and the nursing stations wherever we can find room for them.
I'm standing in the hood of the 1987 Saab.
What's going to happen? You don't carry flood insurance, do you? Or?
No, it's not something that you would think you would handily carry, that being next to a river, or who would expect something like this to happen? I mean, Minnesota doesn't rain like this. I'm not on a river. Who would need it?
It stayed out of our house, but the poor people down the block, it's right up lapping at their floor joist in the 2nd level. And
how's your basement?
Our basement's leaked just a little bit, but I think it's just from runoff from the roof. It's not from the flooding, but these poor people on the next block, it's really bad. It's really bad.
Just call KMSP and tell them that we need the power cut off for this building.
Okay.
Come on, kiddies. I don't know where you're gonna go, but you gotta. We'll figure it out. But Grandpa will stay here. Come on. Make sure nobody steals what little you have left that isn't destroyed. Careful.
While the water just came through the windows and everything else, we tried to close the windows and it just broke the panes out.
What happened? When did you decide to leave?
We left after the water got too high and we almost didn't get out of it.
Really? What happened?
Well, the door got closed and we couldn't open the doors. Our table and chairs and everything else was floating, the beds were floating. You know, about the only thing that wasn't floating was the TV.
That's 5 feet, that is all day long.
You're touching ground right now.
I'm on the ground.
And how tall are you?
I'm 6 foot.
5 feet of water in the basement. Come on up out of there.
The roof leaked and split or something, and we got 4 apartments right in a row that our ceilings are dropping out of. And right now I got to go back and check a pump up on the roof.
How deep is it? It's over his head, so the garages are back there. Well, some of them got it up to about their ceiling in the basement, about 8-10 feet. Pretty deep. Where's your house? No, none of them are mine. I'm on the next street, thank God.
Ooh, I just hit another Mustang. There's the hood of a Mustang. That's the roof. Right there's the roof of a car.
We're on it right now.
Yeah, we're on top of the car here. We're pushing off now. Oh, God. Dang. Oh, we're stuck. Back her up. Oh, shoot.
My car's under the water. Oh, my goodness.
Water dropped.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, water line on
my God. Yeah, look.
Oh my God!
Terrible.
My house is terrible. It's under the living room. My living room is underwater.
You got it in your living room? You're one of the lucky ones. Oh, there's a lot of sewage out here now. There you go.
How much water is in your house, folks?
Say 3 feet above the rafters, huh?
After the step. Last step.
Oh, yeah. If you'd like to, you can get on the bus and walk in there and take a look. That's okay. Okay, we got another car right here, Dino. It's just completely underwater all the time. There,
where the curb is, cars we always look at.
Right, yeah. Here's another car right here. This one's completely underwater, too. You know, it's filled with water inside the car, too. The gentleman died 3 feet underwater. They can't get him out of this house here. There's no way they can get him out. He's 3 feet underwater in the basement. Firemen came in and they said it's 3 feet underwater. There's no way they can get him until the water goes down. There's nobody in that house, sir. No, the gentleman's 3 feet underwater, and that fireman had everybody clear out. There's a gas line broke in there. He wants everybody away from there.
They were downstairs trying to get food out, and my mother came upstairs and heard an explosion, and I assume maybe the wall caved in or a window went, and they just said that your father's, you know, in the house still, and they presumed that, you know, he was dead or missing.
We just checked with everybody. They said no, they didn't want to leave.
Then the house kind of quivered, and I thought, oh no. I went and looked down the basement and yelled, Harold. I couldn't. The water was way up. I knew that he couldn't hear me. No answer, and I thought, what can I do? All I did was walk back and forth, because I couldn't get out. And I couldn't use the phone. There was no one to call. And I thought if I could get somebody, maybe I could still save him.
It was a mess. There was cars under the bridge stuck. There was cars making U-turns to go back up. There was a semi stuck at the top of the off-ramp. It was a mess. I didn't know when to pull off. I couldn't get off on France. It was backed up. I couldn't get off on Penn. It was backed up, and then it was too late. I was stuck.
Give him a business card, Johnny. What do you like better, towing in rain or in snow? Snow.
Probably 25 since midnight.
And as soon as you get back, have you got another one to go to?
Right there.
If you were just going to turn and point for us for a second, where do you think your car might be right now?
It's sitting on the other side of there, down in there someplace. That's what I can figure out. Unless it's floated further down the line. Well, we were just about through, and then your car stalled. And then he started it up again. And it went a little ways, then she stalled again, then we couldn't make it no more. And we crawled out of the car, it's about waist deep or more. If it wouldn't have been 5 minutes later, we would have never made it out of there.
The water was rising that fast?
Yeah, it was really rising fast. We were lucky we got out of there.
Yeah, the basement's completely filled to the top, and it was about a foot high upstairs, and we evacuated it from it last night. Our boat was floating in the garage.
You paddled, how far did you paddle?
Paddled from Port Gavin all the way around here. Planning on going out there. See the car flip over and see the car.
I got all the sentimental stuff out, but really didn't care about anything else that we can replace.
10 years ago, we had a similar problem, and my whole back wall caved in.
So how are you doing this year?
Well, the basement's full, the wall's still standing. Now we're just waiting for the water to go down.
Everything turned black, there's gasoline in the water.
Gasoline and oil from all the cars.
I'm going down the basement right now. Your basement finished? You just said
No, that was my excuse 10 years ago. I'm not going to finish off the basement in this neighborhood, so I lucked out there. A lot of people in a lot worse shape than I am.
Cindy looked over and trees just started disappearing. So he came upstairs and was looking out the upstairs window, and they just kept on disappearing one right after another.
This wasn't in concrete, it would have been gone, which I was wishing.
Well, we have half a house left. That's better than none. The house behind us is totally gone, but our house is at least half there. There's a lot of damage inside. We got home and, you know, the house looked smaller, and it took a few seconds to realize what had happened.
I was just shaking when I got back up, because I've never been in a tornado before, and that was about the closest thing that I want to come into. So. Somebody's canoe.
I'm Kurt Gessen, and I'm with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and we're making a survey.
We just keep going from house to house and fixing the thing up best we can. Hopefully there won't be any more rain.
Boy, when you see it all together like that, the devastation, the damage that that one storm could cause, and it's just good to know that they're calling it the storm of the century. Hopefully we won't see another one like that in our lifetime.
Just amazing. Congratulations to Steve Goodseed and Bob Davidson, who produced that. Fine job. Thank you for joining us tonight. Please join us again tomorrow night at 9. Good night.
We'll see you then. Good night.